Texas Open Meetings Act. Mr. Carter, will you verify that we're in compliance with provisions of Texas Open Meeting Act regarding the notice to this meeting?
We are.
So now you want to go into the public meeting of the District of Innovation?
Yes, yeah, we are going to go into that public. And on the, this public hearing is to begin the process of updating or / renewing our District of Innovation plan. The District of Innovation was a something 5 years ago that was put in place by the legislature that allowed school districts. Just shut the door. Forgot we're stringing the door. And so what it does is it allows us the opportunity to exempt ourselves from certain provisions in law. And so there is certain ones that you can go for, you know, there are some that you can't, and that specifically says in that legislation, there are some areas that you cannot. And so with this, what it allows you to do is it allows you to go through a local committee that looks at all the provisions, and then they bring a plan to the board. The board looks at that plan and says, hey, we do like this, and if so, you adopt the plan and the commissioner has no say. The commissioner has to follow it, and that is what's in the deal. So all you do is you tell them the intent of that you're going to file. After you file it, then you send the appropriate one to them, and from there, it becomes what you do in your district, okay? And so some of the things that we're looking at for this one, again, these are proposed. We'll have to go through the committee to look at these in depth. One of the ones is certification. Again, being in a small school district, looking for certifications in like career technology is very difficult sometimes. And so being able to have a little bit of flexibility to offer some career and technology education courses and some other ones on top of that for teachers that we feel like have the licensure or the experience to bring the wealth of knowledge, but they may not have a quote certification through the state, that we still are able to provide some of that on campus. Once again, that is still a local decision that you guys as a board would have ultimate control over. Teacher probationary contracts. By the state standards, what happens is that a teacher who has been teaching for 5 of the last 8 years can only be placed on a probationary contract for 1 year. That's it. And then after 1 year, they're immediately, if you're going to hire them for the second year, they are on a term contract. What this will allow us the opportunity to do is up that from 1 year to 3 years. Because again, we all recognize that 1 year is sometimes not enough time for us to evaluate a teacher that is new to our district. And so rather than some districts just saying, we're on the fence, so we don't want to offer you a new one because it's going to go on a term contract. This allows you a little bit more flexibility that you can offer another probationary contract over the next 2 years as opposed to just 1. So again, you don't have to do that, but it does allow you the flexibility to do so. The next one would be professional development. It allows us the opportunity to make sure that we are using professional development for the times that we need in the district, and the state of Texas is not telling us what we need to do. We're just going over the public hearing over the District of Innovation Plan. Mr. Carry on. The next one is on interdistrict transfer students. And what that allows us the opportunity to do is to ultimately have control over the transfer students at all times, regardless whether it's at the beginning of the year, middle of the year, or at the end of the year. School start date. There's always legislation in every legislative session that says when they think that you should start school. This allows you the opportunity to say, we will start school when Roe v. ISD feels that we want to start school. The class size for kindergarten through 4th grade, we all know being in small schools and with the flex, you know, every year is a little different. You may have 1 year where you have a lot of turnover in a certain industry. And so you go from having a lot of students in 1 grade to not very many, or going from not very many to a large number. That this allows you the opportunity to not have to go out and find a new teacher if your ratio goes above the 1 to 22 students. That you as a local board can make that decision based upon certain parameters as to that this is an influx for a certain amount of time while we're working on something, as opposed to have to go out and find a teacher and then all of a sudden you hire them for a year and then you drop back down to 14 students. Now you've got an extra payroll that you're paying for. So it just allows rural schools an opportunity to really take a better control over your personnel. The next is the local school health advisory council. Right now, the rules state that you have to have 4 times annually you have to meet for the school health advisory council. You know as well as I do, living in a small town, that most of the people that are on one advisory council or one committee is also on 12 others. And so what this allows you to do is that you can limit it all the way down to 1 meeting if you want to, instead of having to go with the state mandated 4. You can still have 4 from the local's decision, but it gives you the flexibility to make it your policy, not what the state tells you have to do. The next is campus behavior coordinator. Currently, right now, the campus behavior coordinators are usually principals. This allows you as a district to decide who those people are. It may be better suited that it be a different personnel person that can handle all of that versus just the principals alone. So it just gives you some flexibility. It does not mean that you have to do that, but you certainly can. The next one, which we're fixing to have to go through, is the depository contract, because we are up on ours. This allows us the opportunity to actually extend that out even further than what is by law. If you only have one depository in your district, you have the flexibility to extend that out without having to go through all the wonderful depositories if you choose to. Once again, it is a flexibility thing. It is not anything more than that. And this is just some of the ones that we will be looking at. This is not the full plan. Length of the school day, once again, it will be based upon what we feel like is the length of the school day that we want. The 90% attendance rule, we will determine what is considered as a good percentage for attendance and what is a bad percentage for attendance. Contract service days, again, by law, it's currently on a 10-month contract, is what everything is based on, but everything in schools is based on days. So it's like they have one standard for students, but another standard for employees. And so what that allows you to do is the flexibility for you to decide how many days is considered a 10-month contract. So if you believe that 185 days is a 10-month contract, then you set that way. If you believe 182 days or 187 days is, then you as a district have the ability to say, this is what a 10-month contract looks like. Okay, so you have some alternate. And the one that's the most exciting by far, and the reason why that I really want to push forward with this is that the alternative uniform group coverage. The legislature has always stated that schools have to follow the Texas Retirement System, or TRS, system for insurance. Whatever the state for small schools, whatever it is what you offer. Deal with it. Who cares? If they move their prices up 50%, doesn't matter. If they move it up 250%, doesn't matter. You're going to pay it because you're a small school. What this allows us the opportunity to do is to say, we will still offer your plans, but we are exempting ourselves out of saying those are the only ones that we will go with. And so we are working through the FFGA, First Financial Group of Administrators, I believe is what it is. Anyways, and those who handled most of our benefits already, but what we will be able to do is utilize their massive coverage to go out for additional insurance plans to offer our staffs, not just what TRS has. And so what this allows the opportunity to do is find plans that may be significantly less in price, but more in coverage, and maybe some that are less in price that even some of our hourly employees that unfortunately, because of how high the insurance prices are, cannot even be covered under any plan. And so this will allow us the opportunity to work with them. And I've made it very clear to FFGA when I talk to them that either you help us get this done or we will go with someone else. And I'm not married to you. And so as soon as I said that, apparently that was like, okay, well, let's look at some options. And so they were able to bring us a lot more options that we're working on right now. So once we get this plan in place, we will be able to offer at least, I think that they said we're up to the 3 plans for TRS, and then we may have up to 4 to 5 additional ones on top of that we will be able to offer as well that are outside. One of them, I believe, was Cigna. And they're not the only plans that we will offer are ones that are actually covered in this area. So in other words, it's not one that you would have to go to Dallas to use. It's ones that people in this district would be able to utilize with people on the outside. And so they have a matrix that they go through for that. And so that allows us the flexibility to offer more plans. And again, one of the biggest things that we want to do is to retain, recruit, and our teachers, and we want to make sure that we're paid, not just teachers, but employees in general. And this allows us the opportunity to open that door and utilize that much better to give our employees more options. And the more options we give them, the better options that we have for ourselves, and then also reduces cost for them, which is what we want to do. So that's kind of where we are on that. And so that is essentially the process. The process that we'll go through from this point forward on the timeline is we will tonight, you guys will have on the agenda item is that you will look at adopting a resolution to update our innovation plan. And then you will also direct me to come up with the committee to bring this together. And then what I will do is I will put a press release out on that our intent to review or to renew the innovation plan. And then we will meet with the committee to discuss this. We will have a committee meeting. Once we get done with that, if they approve, if they feel like this is something we want to do, we will send a letter to the commissioner saying, get ready, that we're sending it in. And then our 30 days starts online. And then after 30 days, we can bring it back to the board. You guys will look at it. If y'all feel like it's something we want to do, y'all approve it, it's immediately in place. And so we move forward. Once again, anything that is in this plan is ultimately under your control. So nothing that is in this plan says, if you approve this, that we have to follow it. It just means that we have the ability to say, TEA, we're not going to follow this one, and this is what we're going to do instead. And it's a local policy decision that you guys as a board will make the final determination on. Okay, so does that make sense? Okay, that's all I have for the public hearing, and I don't believe there's anybody signed up, so we can close it.
Y'all have any questions? What's your timeline on getting this done?
We will. I am very hoping that we can. We are going to be able to bring this to you guys in May and for final approval. So that's the goal. Is that we'll have it for a final approval so that we can start the process of the new insurance plans coming online in July 15th. Because no one can sign up for a new plan in the school systems until July 15th. So this will be done well before we will. Now we will go ahead and already have the pricing plans. We'll already have all of the benefits and everything else. That will already all be done. It's just we need to make sure this is done prior to July 15th, and we will have we'll be well established before then.
State have to approve any of this?
No.
Since we're already a district,
It doesn't even matter. There's no, as long as y'all approve, the state legislature said all you have to do is notify the TEA commissioner, and he has nothing. He can't approve it. All he can do is say, okay, sounds good. So that's how that works for us.
Good. Anything else?
That's it.
I guess we'll close the public meeting part of this district renovation meeting. Move into our regular meeting. Maybe go through all the scripted stuff again, though.
No, just all you have to do is just do the invocation and move on. That's it.
Mr. Evans, can you bring us an invitation, please?
Absolutely. Father, we love you. Thank you for the opportunity to serve you and serve this community. God, I just pray that you would guide us, Lord, in ways that things that we don't even really know what we're doing sometimes, Lord, and we ask for your help. Give us discernment, Lord, that we would make decisions that are going to give our students the best opportunity to succeed, not only here, but in life, Lord, and that we would be good stewards that would bless this community. So, Lord, just be with us tonight. Watch over us. Guide us in all that we do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Jordan. You doing the roll call, or you don't do that, or?
Yes, everyone is here except for Mark Harrison. He is not going to be present either through teleconference or in person. So everyone else is in attendance.
We need to check, show that for public comment.
There's about a 3-second delay.
See yourself coming and going?
That's about right, too. Okay.
Move on. Acknowledgements and appreciations.
Actually, we're going to handle those for the next meeting. We'll have some excellent information coming from our visual arts students. They did really well, and Ms. McWilliams will go over some of that in her report. And so that's something we'll definitely look at. If we can, since we have our guest here, if we can go ahead and move to regular agenda item A.
bond update.
All right. You guys are up.
Good to go.
Come on up.
You want us to move up here?
Yes, you can have it wherever you want to. I'm fixing to share your stuff up there, so
Okay.
it doesn't matter. Y'all can speak wherever you want to.
Okay, I'll just stand here if that's all right. My name is Derek York, and I'm a principal at WRA Architects. Alex Fedrick is our project manager, and Lance is here also from Gallagher
Lance Aaron.
Construction Group. So basically, we brought a packet for you to leave with you. I think Jason's going to be able to pull up the design drawings, which is the most interesting thing to look at, but we did want to give you the full packet of where we're at and kind of give you an update. So obviously, the bond was passed in November. We went to work out here. We did some scanning and existing facility surveying. We got all of our consultants out here in the past month or so. So we've included in the booklet architectural narrative. We've got our civil engineer who did the site survey for you on the topographic survey. They've been out to do that, and I know that was approved a couple of months ago. So we've got that back from them, and we're working with our civil engineers on the site planning, our structural engineers, mechanical, plumbing, electrical, and our roofing consultant. So we're hitting the ground running, and we're targeting our overall schedule. We're looking at end of July, which is in the back of this packet. We're still on schedule to put out the construction documents out to bid at the end of July. And right now we wanted to just give you an update on the schematic design. I'll turn it over to Alex in just a minute, but he's been taking the lead on the drawings, and we have Jason and Misty have met a few of our people through Zoom. We've got a couple of designers back at the office with Diego, Nandita, and Josh. So basically tonight we just wanted to give you an overview. With schematic design, we're kind of at the level where we know where all the pieces are going. We have some exterior renderings. Here in the next couple of months, we'll be looking at the interior renovation of the high school, and we'll also the classroom addition, the shop. We'll be having some interior renderings for you at that time. But mainly tonight, we just kind of wanted to give everybody an update. And kudos to Jason and Misty. They've been very responsive and very helpful in pushing this along. And we've got great feedback from them. And we'd love to hear any feedback tonight as well. So I kind of let Alex run through the plans.
If y'all want to look at this document on your screens, on the regular agenda item A, it will be the first link. That will be the one that's on the screen now that you can go through on your own, and you can see it. You can zoom in if you want to. But otherwise, we can zoom in on this if you need that as well.
And I think if you look at page 29, that's the bulk of what Alex is going through in your packet. On page 29, that's kind of the starting point of the fun stuff to look at without all the narratives. But if you need something to read tonight, this will give you something to go through.
Yeah, if you don't mind, we'll go to the next page on that. So this is what Derek was saying is on page 29, the booklet that we have in front of you all. So overall site plan of kind of the scope that we're charged with here to, I'm sure most of y'all were involved with the bond planning, so a lot of this is going to be familiar, I expect. But we're looking at, of course, renovating the high school, a new classroom addition that's going to join between the high school and the elementary. And then new ag shop, which we're currently looking at placing north of the bus barn. And then, of course, we're also adding on the renovation of the existing locker rooms, both the newer ones and the ones in the older gym underneath the stands. If you don't mind, go to the next one. It's kind of we can kind of glance over this one. It's a little hard to see on the screen, but that's just showing you kind of our current planned demo for the high school. This will, as Derek mentioned, when we move into DD, this is going to become a lot more detailed of where we're connecting directly to the school and, the amount of brick that we're pulling off and all that sort of stuff. But right now, it's kind of an overview of kind of our main scope of renovating the admin area.
This is page 30 in your book.
And also helping to provide a secure vestibule for entry point into this building. So on the next slide, which would be page 31, You see what we're proposing in schematic design to go back with. Again, we're shifting the admin over against the auditorium wall to help facilitate that secure vestibule entry so that the receptionist has a direct line to whoever's coming into the building. And then, of course, in our meetings with Jason and Misty, we're arranging the admin to best suit the needs of the district. Currently planning on, repurposing some of the classrooms, kind of just extending some storage and bring things up to code as we see it. But as the bond stated, this is going to be a remodel, so we're going to be going through the building with all updated materials, flooring, ceiling tiles, and painting the walls, and patching up things that the district points out that we may not see right offhand because we're not in this building every day. But the goal is to update the building. So I think that's something that Jason and Misty have really brought forward to us, is we want this to look like a new interior, not just that we're band-aiding things. So that's what we've been charged with. And then you can see what we're connecting to the high school between the elementary 5-classroom addition, moving the clinic to kind of a centrally located area so it's better served throughout the school district. And then adding some restrooms, and then just kind of making that connection. And I think as part of this, we'll be obviously relocating the playground, as you can see in the lower kind of western plane, west corner of that lot. So if you mind going to the next one.
Yes.
Again, we've got a demo plan. This is for the locker room renovation. So we're showing, or is that one out of order?
Yeah, that's fine. We can go with the ag shop.
Yeah, we'll skip to the ag shop. That's page 35 on the packet. So yeah, this is the new ag shop. The overall was to obviously add more space for the shop needs. So you see that we're currently planning for 3 overhead doors and 1 to allow for a full pass-through. If we're working on trailers, things of that nature, it's just a lot easier to facilitate. And with the classroom and storage and the restrooms, we also plan on having a mezzanine storage level on top of that. So that'll give a good amount of storage for the ag building. And then we have some areas outside that will be covered by the metal building roof structure that you can see to the right there. It's got outdoor storage area, and then on the other side of the drive, we're planning on a little kind of fenced in protected area if there's going to be a compressor, maybe a generator, things of that nature, so we can keep them secured and kind of out of the weather.
And just to orient yourself to this, the bus barn is on the bottom, the highway's to the right, and the high school is to the left.
Exactly. And then since we did these a little out of order, I apologize. If we go to the next one on here, you'll have to flip back a page in the book, but that'll get you to the locker room renovations. Again, it's kind of a demolition plan showing all the walls that we anticipate removing and adjusting to make this work. And then the next slide will show our current schematic design plans for taking the newer locker rooms that are in the middle there, splitting the 2 locker rooms to 4, but still allowing a pass-through so that you have easy visibility and for the coaches. So, how are they to use if you have a tournament or a group of games and you need to close that off, so you need to use all 4 locker rooms, you have that ability. Of course, we'll be providing new fixtures in there, trying to meet ADA with, the accessible stalls and showers and things of that nature. Part of that will be expanding the existing restrooms to the north. And to do that, we'll be relocating the concession stand directly across from the gym. And then if you go to the right a little bit, you can see the locker rooms that are currently under the bleachers. And those will be, they're a little one-sided right now. I think what we're showing is the junior high girls locker room is a lot smaller than the one on the right. So we're going to be shifting that all over to kind of equal out the space. And again, just updating the fixtures and everything. providing the locker count that we've come up with between Angel, Jason, and Misty. And then, so the fun part, if you go to the next slide, we've got the renderings that start on page 37 in the packet. So we've got kind of we'll start off with a few site renderings, just overview of where the connector is going to be between the high school and the elementary.
Now, some of this is going to be disorienting because there's grass. So just look past the grass and you'll be able to see.
Got the new classroom addition and the proposed location of the playground.
Right, and you can see off north of, I guess, what's the bus barn now is our proposed location for the ag shop. And I think the next slide is just another view of the aerial. Shows you the ag shop a little bit better, and then we have some detailed shots of the classroom addition and the shop after that. And these will, as we move further in DD or design to development phase, we'll be seeing a lot more detailed images. Right now, it's just kind of us in broad strokes saying we anticipate this being brick, and we anticipate trying to match this color brick, and just really high level things. And we'll get into more detail and eventually have interior renderings and all that as we pick on an overall direction to go and plan to stick with. We'll start developing those.
And the grass does not come with this project. Okay. And in this picture, just to orient yourself, this right here is the teacher's workroom on that corner. And then this would be a covered walkway to across, and just inside this door would actually be the nurse's office. So on a beautiful day outside, kids can go under the awning straight across. During the bad weather, they would go through the hallways and directly into the next hallway to get to the nurse. So there's access to both of those. And then so just kind of orient yourself to where that is.
Yeah, I believe the next two images both be at the shop.
You gonna go where the teacher's workroom is in elementary? So that can be always faster.
No, it will still be utilized in a lot of ways that same way, but it would just be on bad days where rush somebody across the basically utilize. And if we can't move some things around, we will. It just depends on how much space we need.
And I don't think it's in that packet, but in the packet we gave you, the last page on page 44, there's a timeline, so you can kind of see where we're at. Mid-March, where the first star is basically where we sit today. We've been working on it for probably 2.5, 3 months, and then by the end, like I said, end of July, we'll have construction documents. But if Jason will have us back, we may target a May board meeting to update with design development when we have the interior renderings, and we've shared all of this with Gallagher. And Lance, I don't know if you want to chime in on anything on your end.
I don't think so. We're good as of right now. So I'm pleased with it.
Okay.
Just as we get these updated documents, then we'll start preparing budget updates for you at the same time. So just trying to make sure we stay in budget from where the bond was set. We'll do that as these progressions come in.
And we'll do, when we get into construction documents too, we'll do a 50%, probably 75% and 90% progress prints that we do for our own coordination. And we'll share that with Jason and Misty. Every step along the way, we'll have deliverables that we'll be providing. But right now we're just getting our consultants kicked off. And now that the plans are getting a little more concrete, then we can work through the civil, structural, MEP engineering that we have to do. But I guess we can open it up for questions if anybody has any questions for us.
And we can always go back to any of the schematics. Kind of wherever you want to start, we can certainly go there. This is your time to provide input, questions, comments, concerns. anything that you want to go over? And
Is there anything you guys would do different as far as the setup and design, how it's laid out? I guess y'all do this all the time. This is all new to us. So.
Well, one of the things that with the bond planning, we had the classroom addition out on the end, and I think as we collaborated with the district, moving it kind of more toward the middle so that you're not just circulating on a big circle.
Right.
I feel like we have a good plan. I don't know what else I would do different. Upgrading this high school is a big step too, just all that finishes and just refreshing it to make it look new. I don't know.
Yeah, I would think the renovation aspects, obviously we have pretty hard limits set on us with the current layout of the building, but as Derek hit on with the location of the addition, I think that's definitely a better move to shift that more central. And then of course we're just working with the confines of what are the best places, keeping the budget in mind to join these two buildings at, and I think that middle connection just really lined things up. So from here on out, it'll just be, us detailing it and trying to get, the best bang for the buck out of it. And just what we kind of envision with that addition is where we have the most freedom, I think.
And one of the things we brought up with this interior space here in the middle of the high school is to infill that so that it's level with the hallway, so you don't waste space with the ramp and things like that. So as we're working with Jason and Misty, those are some of the things that we're throwing out there. Our engineers will have some other ideas as we get them kicked off, but I think you have a good plan forward. I think it'd be great if we're able to do the locker rooms as well. I don't think that was part of the original bond scope, but
it was an alternate.
We're looking at doing it as an alternate.
To it, yes.
So in this building, as far as the updating and stuff, all the electrical, will it be redone and revamped? I know that's an issue is when it was built, electronics weren't near as, wasn't as much. And now we've got teachers with outlets power strips.
Right.
On power strips.
That's definitely something that we'll plan to address with our electrical engineer. They were out here a couple of weeks ago, combing through the buildings, looking at electrical panels and things like that. So obviously, if we're not going to just scrap what's here if we don't have to tear it up, but I think we'll be able to make some panel upgrades and definitely get you off of surge protectors.
Yeah, where we
like
kind of, more circuits to where not popping and blowing and
yes, sir.
Yes,
fire hazards and stuff.
Also, my thing is, we're renovating the whole thing. Are we looking at a roof? Because I know that has to be.
That is when we did this, that was, I believe, a part of what the district is doing on its part in the process, is the AC and the roof. Yes, correct. Okay, yes.
And we do
I just don't want to have a whole new building on this side.
No.
We do also have, in the beginning of the book, or the part of the beginning, we have our consultant narratives. And so you'll see what we as architectural side, our MEP, and then even our civil and roofing has their part in there. So they've got a breakdown of what kind of systems they anticipate to use and all that. So like Derek said earlier, if you want some light reading tonight, then you can go through the civil narrative.
They'll start on page 13, and we will be working on the budget updates as we move forward and what needs to be M&O money versus bond money. We'll definitely work with Jason and the team on what needs to be within our scope, and we'll be respectful of the budget all the way through. So, and prioritize, as we move forward.
We may not be able to have as many chandeliers in the hallway, so we might have to get rid of some of those.
Keeping your house in Cabo.
I'm afraid to leave the country.
Anybody got any other thoughts, questions?
No, I know there's some talk with us is about, I'm just throwing this out with the ag shop and its locations. I guess y'all had looked over at the tennis courts and stuff and decided over there was a little better as far as, running lines and things like that. Or, I don't know.
One of the things that this site will allow you is to have the drive-through, pulling trailers. If a student's backing a trailer in there, I feel like this gives you the most flexibility and probably the cleanest slate as far as site utilities and the terrain. It's a pretty level site here. I think you do, once you get to the highway, there's a little retaining wall, but we would probably be back off of that. And if you try to put it where the tennis courts, there's a hill behind it. So you're probably damming up water for drainage issues and stuff there. And there's some other utilities, I think, and trying to get kids backed into there. So we did study, I think, 2 or 3 different options, Jason, on where we could put it. So
I figured I just asked.
no, that's good. And we did, I think this was close to where they were planning it in the original bond school.
Yes.
So I think this gives you the most flexibility. We were talking through some things, how close it needs to be to the bus barn. It might change a little proportion to pull off of that and make sure we're not creating any, water issues up against the new building. But that's something that we're already starting to look at.
And one of the concerns that was brought up, during the talks with where, when we initially started the bond process was, to create that secure campus concept. And, and by putting it on the tennis court, of course, would make it the most secure because you could put but one of the things that's going to address that is that the high school is we're moving back to the block schedule format. And so what that will do is it will reduce the number of passing periods that students would be in and out going from building to building. So that allows you the opportunity to lessen the number of people that are in between, but it also allows for more projects, because by the time you get out there to even here, it takes 10 minutes to get clothed, dressed, get your stuff out, and it takes you 10 minutes to put up. If the class is 50 minutes long, that didn't give you very long to do any projects. This way, it allows you a chance to get there, get set up, and have a long time working before you have to set up. So that's one of the reasons why that was one of the ways we kind of addressed the security part to some degree. And we've all identified there's no true perfect way to secure. We can do the best we possibly can. And so we'll be able to secure the majority of the campus, but that in of itself will be a different structure.
I hope we don't ever come to that.
Do what?
I hope it doesn't come to that.
I agree.
I don't want this school to look like a prison.
Absolutely.
But basically, we're a year away from starting. I mean, I know you're starting, but
Breaking ground, I think, is
beginning improvements or
I think
It will be
we're
August.
looking at,
August.
we would bid it in August. And
So essentially,
I think
we're a year
looking at
away
kind of starting
this summer.
October.
October,
Be a year from this summer, it's done. So a year from this coming summer, the high school will be done. So the high school was going to be first when we initially had the bond set for the May timeline. Now it will be the last thing. So everything else will be done prior to.
We're looking at breaking ground in October.
October.
And talking about breaking ground, I know one question that was asked was, how does that typically work when you have the inside, the new classroom addition, you have the ag shop, and then you have the HVAC? Is that all happening at the same time? Or is it one versus?
Yeah, we'll be doing it all simultaneously.
Okay, so essentially the ag shop could be done and already moved into earlier than any.
It should be a shorter time frame.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Essentially.
And the renovation would.
And the renovation will
Summer.
start in the summertime. Once school's out, then we'll get the ground running with that immediately as soon as school's out. And that'll take us to the end of the summer. Give us the 8 months basically overall, with some overlap between that and the new.
and then what would be the question would be locker rooms and that, even though it is considered an alternate, if one of the questions is that, how would that be done
Phased in.
with athletics? Would that be something that would try to be done in the summertime? Is that kind of how that works?
I mean, if there's areas that you can get us sooner that we can get into, then great, we absolutely love that, but.
Okay.
But all else fails, our intent was to do any renovation through the summertime.
Gotcha. And one of the fundraisers we're going to do for the high school is we're going to sell swings of a sledgehammer And so people can come in and pay for swings, and they're just gonna start taking out walls. And so we're gonna do that about 2 weeks before the end of the year. I mean, I'm sorry, I mean, I'm just saying, anything to get a buck here. So I think most of the teachers would be more happy to do it on their own time, so, Does anybody have any questions on the new classroom edition? Let's just start with that. And then is there any questions on that? We can kind of go through each one of those. Would that be a little bit easier to kind of organize? Since that's the first one on
The new one, or the new edition, is it gonna have its own AC unit? Is it gonna tie into the high school or with the junior high elementary?
It'd probably be packaged rooftop units
Okay,
for the addition.
gotcha.
So it'd have its own units.
Have its own separate.
Yes, sir.
If you're moving all the offices over here to the high school, what are you gonna do with all these offices over here?
the assistant principal is going to have one of those, diagnosticians going to have another one, and then that allows us the opportunity to have a conference, not a conference room, but a meeting room that we can meet with parents, elementary, junior high, those types of areas. So we do have some spaces for that. What else was there something else that was going over there? We might have some migrant office, in any smaller rooms that we don't have to take up a classroom for, we'll utilize those offices like that.
5 classrooms you're gonna use, which way you going with them, elementary, junior high, or high school?
Those are going to, Ms. McWilliams, what we're,
So the intention for the shared, or the classrooms, primarily would be teachers that we share between junior high and high school. So for example, theater, some of our history teachers go both ways. Right now, our Spanish teacher teaches both 8th and 9th. Our special ed that covers both junior high and high school, really needs to be in that part because they need to be in a shared space. So that's kind of what we have in line to go there. Potentially one of those as a computer lab for our enrichment type Imagine Learning labs. What that opens up also is, like we have over here, like for example, Coach P and the dual credit lab both use this classroom. So some of those spaces that are shared and kind of people stacked on top of each other throughout the day, like Coach P can't stay here and plan his classes because he has a class right after. So he takes his things out to the coach's office. So just things like that, to not have to share spaces so much. We also have, we currently have our elementary special ed classroom in an office. That's really doesn't work, especially if you have any mobility issues with students. So that needs to go back to a classroom. We have our RTI teacher in an office. She sometimes has groups of 6 to 7 kids at a table. So some of those spaces that really need to go back to a full-size classroom are kind of what our plans are.
You turn this small classroom there across the hallway into a workroom also?
no, that's storage unit on the back, and that is the restrooms on the outside. Yes, and so instead of where the restrooms are down here, they would be down here at this end at this point. And if we get to the area where it talks about the principals, secretaries, and everything else, I'm not saying that B word because it comes out vegetable, and so somebody else is going to say vestibule because I say vegetables all the time, so I'm just refusing.
Secure vestibule.
Yeah, it's just that. Anyway, so if you have any questions on that, ask Misty. I can't say that word. And then on the science lab, that will be upgraded with all the updated safety, hoods and everything else. And like you talked about, the electricals and everything else, all of those things will be part of that so that we can make sure that we have up to the updated standards of all of the safeties for the chemicals and, all those things that weren't around in 1922. Not really, but close.
Yeah, more dangerous stuff.
There's still the option that you might possibly, since the material was a little bit higher than when we estimated, that this square footage was gonna be smaller on the back shop. Remember, that was an option too. You might have to make the square footage smaller.
The square footage smaller.
Material costs.
Option do that to save money, is what you're saying?
Well, I remember it got wet. He said something because, remember that guy told you that your price of it and the material was gonna be a lot more than what it was when they first did this script.
Well, and I think that will be, when we start getting into the cost estimates and everything else, that's when we'll have to go. And it's my understanding, and that's a great question going into this, is that from here, what'll happen is once we get past the D&D phase, and that's when we start looking at, okay, it's going to cost this much for this, so we need to look at what can we take out. Is that when that begins?
Yes, that'll start with this SD set, or
Okay.
DD set. As that starts coming online, then we'll start looking at it more detailed, where we get quantities and start putting actual numbers to things.
Okay, and then at that
And
point,
it'll
we
just
can
be an estimate at that point.
Sure.
And we're not going out for hard numbers or anything like that until we actually bid it. But at that point in time, we'll identify if we've got any concerns or issues, whether
Yes.
it be the size or material cost.
Yes, yeah. So that would, once you get the basic design of what you're looking at, then from there, it's a matter of what needs to change. You know, this is the start, and then we look at numbers and go, okay, here's what reality tells us.
Yeah, we typically have very fluid, information exchange with Gallagher. And so, especially when we get, like I said, DD, but especially when we get to CDs and we start with every progress set, and we start getting some of those estimates back, we lean on them and we fight with the things that we want to keep in the project. But obviously the goal is to have it on budget for y'all. So,
What is the difference in, and I know we had talked about this, and I know I'm putting you guys on the spot, and I apologize, but do we remember what the square footage difference was in the old ag shop and what we're having now in the new?
I can't remember what
I'm so sorry to put
I
you
know
on the
the
spot for
new
that.
square footage is 4,000 square feet, but the existing shop.
And I'm sorry to put you on the
I mean,
spot like that. I
looking at
just,
the site plan, it's probably, but, I mean,
by the time that you put classroom and the shop area, all of that.
we can get that for you.
Okay.
I want to make sure I'm not.
I don't believe it's that big, probably half.
It's definitely the classroom. I think we've pushed to have the classroom like 800 square feet.
The classroom, I think, was right under
Existing-
7.
Yeah, the
And it's
existing was
pretty
like
tight.
650 or 680. So the new classroom is 800, 780 to 800. And the shop space, I think being able to pull through the shop, it's definitely larger.
Yeah, no, I just, it would be interesting to find out what the, what the difference is.
We can do that.
and the amount of floor space that you'll hopefully be able to keep by using that mezzanine storage.
Right.
Yes.
Kept it up to date, you'd have a classroom there if you had to.
Do it now.
If you kept it up to date, you'd have a classroom there if you realized you had to. I don't know, I don't find anything with the measurements.
Do it now.
I don't find anything with the measurements to the whole one.
All right, how about, okay, let's see, we went from the extension, or the classrooms in the high school, and then we skipped over to the ag shop. Is there any other questions on ag shop? Any other questions, comments, concerns?
No, I just wish I could find a place that's way out there.
Okay. All right, what about the locker room? Let's look at that would be on page 33. The 32 would be what we currently have, correct? Is that right?
Yes.
That's the old school, and then the new,
Yeah, we're showing with dashed lines, just all the walls and equipment that would be removed, that we anticipate so far.
It is gonna limit the lobby area a little bit, you know.
yes.
Putting that concession stand over there.
The bathrooms have to get bigger to be ADA compliant though.
Yeah, and that's the one thing, that's been probably that's probably been the biggest learning thing I know for me, I don't know about Misty, but for me is that just how much of the, it's like, well, can we make that smaller? Well, no, it's 88. Okay. And so my thought process had to change a lot as to, there are some significant things that we're having to do differently that we otherwise would not if we just kept everything as is. But again, as is doesn't cut it. So, I mean,
Well, it was grandfathered as long as you didn't mess with it.
correct. Yes, that is correct.
If
Yes,
you
sir.
didn't mess with it, you had to be ADA compliant.
But,
That's always fun, lovely.
One quick question is, we're still doing HVAC for the gym too, aren't we?
Correct. Yes, that is correct. Yes.
I was trying to read and there it is now at the very bottom.
Yeah. And then,
I put it in like 6 point. No, I'm just kidding.
no, and then that is going to be, and then correct me if I'm wrong, that's what the electrical and everybody else was here for, is to kind of scope out as to what would be the best type of system for that. So there's really not any drawings for that right now because it's just more or less, is that my understanding? Yes. No, that's actually, Mr. Kelly is in the actual bond. So that's not so important.
No, that's why I was just double checking.
And so
But he was there.
based upon your opinion, do you think that the air conditioning units would be, that would be a pretty quick process in installing that? Or is that, how does that normally?
Yeah, if we're just replacing those, that's not going to be a time.
It's actually brand new. So it's like we have nothing in there.
you'd have all the duct work.
So,
Will I be part of the renovation?
Yeah, we probably do it during the summer.
One of the things we wanted to do in that is that coach's office that's there is, we wanted to utilize that more for an actual locker room space. Because again, being able to offer more locker room space allows us the opportunity to bring back tournaments, to be able to utilize those for youth tournaments and for everything else, is having those different places. So that was one of the concerns when talking to people in the community is that they really miss having the holiday tournaments or the tournaments that we used to have at Roby. That one of the reasons why we couldn't is because of the limited, locker room spaces that we had. This allows us the opportunity to bring back. So now instead of us having 2, we now have 6 locker rooms that would be at that point in time usable space. And that would get us out of using the ones across the way, the old junior high, I'm talking about that one across the way in the old gym. So those would become storage. That's where that would be, and everything will be on this side. And the nice thing is with this, it is clean, it is new, it is updated. We have, toilets that work, showers that work. We have lockers that look good. And then from there, we can maintain and keep updated with it. So that's the reason why we've really wanted to try to look at this. And that's been hard, trying to figure out where everything is going to go, because there are some walls that you don't want to touch. And the ones is on that where it says office, storage, and mechanic. That is where the old, is that correct? Is that where the old building was before they added?
Expansion, right?
Yes.
Where the old concession stand was office.
But that's where it says 105 square foot office,
Yeah.
do the concession there. And then it's right next to the old gym, kind of in the new gym too. You could do it there and people still keep their lobby, possibly, just a thought.
So
You're saying that's where the old concession before the
I
addition?
think before they were.
That's correct, yes.
Before the addition.
So the coaches have an office in the gym?
The coaches, there will be a coach's office there, but the majority of ours use that's where we utilize the one that's, I guess, where the old band hall was. This just maximizes the amount of room for student space minus coach's space, if that makes any sense. Comments, questions, concerns on this?
Well, if you want to create more room, could you move that north wall back? Just build a new one, put your concession stand in there and have more lobby space.
Are you saying make the concession smaller?
Like the original north wall here, if you backed it up to the north and just added on across there.
Oh, okay.
Could you put your concession stands that way? Move up enough to leave you more lobby.
So for y'all's perspective, where the concession stand is proposed is a big gathering for people to kind of stand, look through those windows and kind of hang out.
Right.
And so when that's gone, that gathering spots
Well, really,
packed
in the
in.
last couple of years, there's been tables set
Yeah.
there that people can eat
Eat
on.
at the,
So it doesn't get utilized a lot. Sometimes it's wasted space because you got two tables and not, but it is.
One of the issues that we've run into and has been is that is a gathering space and that is considered a fire exit. So our biggest concern is getting people out of there. So in other words, get your food and get in the stands. That's why we allow food in the stands, is to get back in. That also allows people working the concession stand to be able to watch the game.
Yeah.
Whereas where they currently are, you really don't. So I mean, don't get me wrong. This is, we have struggled a whole lot with where it is, but we were trying to figure out where else to put it. And I don't know where else would be an advantageous place other than, like you said, moving it, and then the bathrooms my understanding is that is because of the occupancy is why we need to have the additional stalls. Is that correct?
And just to upgrade the ADA stalls and clearances and all that.
Well, see, there used to be a training room where the concession left. That was a training room before, then they tore it out to put the tables there. So.
Probably the best you can do.
Yeah.
What you got.
Hey, that's a good point on fire escape or fire exit.
It's just
that helps prevent that clutter and that flow. And just sit next to that person.
And to be honest with you, I would love to have that be a problem, is shooing people into the gym, whereas this year it was limiting the number of people in the gym. I mean, I would love to get back to the point that we are.
Get in the gym.
Exactly. I would love that to be the case. And I hope that at one point in our future, that is the case, that we're having to fight. And that's where we want to be on that.
The only thing I see is you don't have any coaches staying in there. We've had that downfall or whatever. That was the reason that your coach's office was there with the window to keep an eye on all the kids, and now that you virtually move them out.
If there's a bunch of kids in there, the coach needs to be out with the kids. Right?
Yep.
If you couldn't have more space if you couldn't. It'd be too much be easier on the visitor side to build into the tennis courts and make such stand or coach's office there. Just having that doorway from there to there. They take about 12 foot or 10 foot of visitor stand and go to the tennis court and build something there. You have an entry going into the gym from the coach's office from there or something. Utilize that space.
Yeah, 'cause that 105 square foot over here to get listed for an office is not going to be very big.
No, and the issue that we've run into that is you really need to have a space that you can have, officials gather, that it's not necessarily a gathering spot that we want our coaches to go in there and close the door and, not ever come out. That's more or less the space that you can put your stuff, but really your big office where all the other stuff is at is we have one general location that we have for that. That's kind of what we have. Again, we're working with limited space here. So that's what we were trying to come up with, as a way that we could still at least have a place that officials could
put their stuff, be safe. Lock their doors, they're safe.
We've been getting that good where they were at. I'd give them a little old hut in the backyard. They've been fishing.
Yeah.
All right, so so what you're saying is that if you put the concession stand on the outside, so there. I just want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying here. So you're saying if you were to put the concession stand somewhere here, is that what you're saying? In this area?
Well, yes, yes, where that,
Kind of go.
visitor side,
Okay, so this is where the visitors actually start.
yes, right there, yes.
So
The tennis court
even
is.
taking up more of the visitor spot?
They're going outside. And
That's what I mean, so this is the outside wall. So actually going here to the actual front doors.
So then they could watch the game out of that corner right there.
Okay, and then just essentially build an entrance here?
I mean, it's just a suggestion,
No, that's what I'm asking is that what you're, is that what
Yes,
you're
that's
saying?
kind of,
Is essentially build, okay,
in general.
gotcha, okay. So that would be essentially like
It'd be pretty costly to do
Okay.
that.
Well, yeah, because it's in the corner right
When you
there.
start on a foundation,
Yeah, I got you.
I'm not sure you're getting your bang for your buck.
Well, it'd be easier on the other side. You could utilize that storage room that
Sure.
already has the
That's the
space
some of the
there.
coaches not being.
Yeah, we've tried to work it
in the
within
gym
the,
or around, not necessarily during their periods, but when they're working on something, somebody goes down the gym when nobody's supervising the gym.
Like kids, they should be with the kids when they're there,
Right.
not necessarily sitting in the office. So
Well, that's,
place to put their stuff.
well, I'm just saying if they're, you gotta work on game plans and all that stuff, but, if they're in their classrooms or they're in their office, who's manning the gym, if some kids aren't where they're supposed to be.
No, and that's one of the things that we are working on is that when no one is in the gym, it is locked down. So if there is people in the gym, there is staff in the gym.
Okay.
And so that's one of the
Well,
biggest
that's one of the,
concerns. Yeah,
that's a big area for not to have any.
correct. And that's one of the things that we are, that's a high priority is that there's anytime that there is students in the gym, there is a staff member in the gym.
Okay.
And they're in there until the students leave. And then at that point, it's locked down until it's time for it to be used again. So that's.
a few years ago, there was a hazing instance and they changed policy to where that coach is going to be in the dressing room
Correct, yes.
at all times. There was kids in the dressing room. And that didn't last a couple of months.
No, the things they're different story.
Looks pretty good in general.
With what you guys work with, I think so.
All right, so let's now look at the ag shop again. Is there anything there that, other than the size?
This area right here, is that just an open space? What is that? I guess that's another. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, it's,
to screen the view from the classroom.
yeah, and
Into the restroom.
kind of a space for them to get ready as well.
Well, the only thing I was thinking is, like, you've got your lockers right here and it's open, but, sometimes you gotta change clothes, go down, work with the pigs and stuff, I guess.
Putting the lockers closer to the restroom.
Well, that's what maybe something like that would be a better use, and not everybody does that, but, I don't know, in school, you go down there and mess with pigs, you get blood and stuff all over you, so you would want to wear your normal clothes, and then, obviously you've got boys and girls in there at the same time, so, just a thought, might be better utilized where they can get to a place of change rather than just holding stuff in lockers, with the extra set of clothes or something.
I think if they're gonna change, they would use the restrooms to change in.
Right.
The lockers, I think, were just to put your stuff while you're going into the shop and.
I got you.
Backpack, books.
Yeah.
Well, and I didn't figure it to be a big one, but like a extra shirt or extra pair of pants or something, or shoes, or you got work.
We might be able to put a few lockers in that little area outside the restrooms.
Just
as
something,
well.
just something to think about,
Yeah.
and not everybody's gonna be, changing clothes like
Right.
that, but, someone might.
Would there be space to add some on the south wall of the entry? You see what I'm saying? Is so like when you walk in, there's just a
Yeah, and then your
row of,
restrooms are,
a row of lockers that, just for what you're saying, I mean, if you have that kind of stuff, then.
yeah, and then you've got the restrooms. You go
Yes,
in there
I mean,
and
so
change.
would that be something to look
Yeah, I think
into?
that would be, I mean, if there's enough room there, I think that would be good.
Show water boots or just show pullovers or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, in the event that you ever want to see this and work on it, get with Misty. She is the queen of schematics. And I mean, she can give them straight to them and they get them right in. I mean, she knows exactly what she's doing. It's crazy.
I'm just a nerd with a hobby.
She did use some graph paper to help us along, so they've been very helpful, both Jason and Misty, in giving us feedback.
But other than that, I think it looks
That's a good point. We'll take that into account when we move forward.
I think we've been through a few versions of that, and maybe it got lost in this last iteration. So, of course, I mean that's the whole point of this, just to get all the feedback we can.
Well, like the skills and storage room, what's the main intent, you think, of that?
That is, we have a lot of our skills teams that need a space to rehearse, and like radio teams and that kind of stuff. And so if they don't utilize any in the classroom, they have to come over to the auditorium by themselves, or they have to use another classroom. And of course, we don't have classrooms this time. So using that more as like a rehearsal room,
It's not storage.
yes, exactly, yeah.
So he has in mind for, when you have a classroom full of freshmen, if you have 3 green hand teams, they can kind of be in classroom, the shop, that's that area, so. Just
I
kind
was
of
just thinking,
dividing
it was listed as storage, I'm thinking, we gotta go through the classroom every time, moving stuff in and out.
Oh,
No, I think storage wise would be like if you were to put a closet in there to store your fencing materials for your skills team or your equipment for your radio team or something. It would be pretty skill specific. I don't think it would be where your mops and brooms and things like that go, just your general storage, but specific to your FFA events.
Yeah, we do have that other storage area planned under the stair, just north of the classroom. So that would be more of what we picture as your shop storage, where
Tool storage.
Right. Of course, I think we're showing some kind of work areas with size of tables and things like that. And as we get with the district and our MEP engineers, we'll start looking at what equipment goes where when we get specific and what area requirements those have. And of course, MEP is going to be super concerned of how much power and ventilation and all that. So.
Any other questions on that so far?
Looks good, I think.
I think that's, is there any other questions on any of that stuff for the experts?
Well, you got them here now.
Tell them you might as well use them.
Of course, Zoom has also kind of bridged that gap a little bit too. I think
Yes.
That's one thing we've gotten from all this is being able to have a very open line of communication.
And literally you call and we have a meeting and we're like, can you give me this? And walls are moving while you're
Josh
talking.
is- Josh is moving in the
It's
background.
impressive. It's just, kind of like, can you do this? Yeah, we can do that right there. So it's been really easy to make adjustments as you get input and all that as to what you want to see differently. And then they've done a fantastic job in staying in contact with us and making sure we're comfortable with everything they're doing. So it's been very refreshing in that sense. So.
Before we finish with this completely, if y'all would look on page 37.
I'm going to talk a little bit in my report later about the playground. I just wanted to kind of draw your attention to where they have drawn that in for us, kind of what that would look like in there. So I appreciate you guys doing that for us. And
then also on 38, you can see it in the top rendering. You can kind of see where, kind of from a floor view of where that is as
Are
well.
we getting rid of the gravel
going with something different or?
That is correct. That's
Good, because my daughter brings home so many rocks as treasures.
So that location.
The washing machine's starting to take a beating.
That location keeps in mind the construction for them to access with big equipment across the playground.
And we worked with Gallagher, and them came out and did a fantastic job. Of, okay, we were like, okay, tell us where y'all are coming in, because we got to have a place for our kids to go. And so they were able to tell us, if y'all can put it in this area right here, that is a safe space. And then what they're going to do is, I can't remember what they're called, but they're the gates. So it's the way that they have it situated, that anytime that kids are crossing, even if there's construction, there's gates that close so that there's nobody. And then when they're going to bring stuff through, the gates open and it closes so that no passing can go during that time, and then they go back. So they do a really good job of making sure that there's safety for us, because again, where they're crossing is where we have to go to get to the cafeteria. And so, they've done a fantastic job in making sure to, ease our fears of how our children get to places. So it's been fantastic working with them on that. But yes, absolutely, that's certainly something that, now, unless you want gravel again, we can certainly look at that option.
I hate for future generations to miss out on the washing machines.
Anything else, guys?
It looks good.
So what's the next step for us, guys?
Next step for us is keep moving forward with our engineers, our civil engineer and structural. We'll start laying out the addition, and then MEP as well. So we'll start pushing into design development, construction documents, and just keep moving forward. So when we get into construction documents, that's the time where you probably won't see us as much, but we can definitely, as we move forward, changing things is harder once you have all the plumbing and electrical and all that drawn up. So that's why we wanted to make sure we bring it to you early. And I think maybe in a couple of months, we could come back with some renderings and maybe finish boards and stuff like that with the interior renovation, finish selection and samples and stuff like that.
Awesome. Anything else, guys? You want to release them?
I think so. I don't think I want to sit through all of our meetings.
They're like, that's a negatory.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your time. Thanks for having us.
And they've done a really good job of keeping the chandeliers to a minimum. So it's been really good on that.
It's been a really good.
Guys, thank you.
Y'all be safe.
See you. We have a couple other running jokes, but I can't say those on camera. So.
So all this is going to come to a head and starts designing out.
Yes.
The price starts falling.
That's right. Yes, and then that's when you start kind of deciding what are your priorities, and so that's kind of where you are on that.
I think they've done a good job of keeping up with what input they had to work with.
Oh, I'm telling you, they have been amazing. They have been amazing to work with.
We can go back, get on the task now.
That's great, yes, sir.
Move on down to the campus report.
Yes.
That's where we was at.
Yes, we can do that.
We're going to give us a campus report.
Okay.
Just you?
Yes.
I'm ready if y'all are ready.
We're ready.
Okay, we had, as far as our day, we had a great spring break and had a good turnout back today. We had 2 new students today. We're anticipating 2 more this week, possibly tomorrow. Couple of moves. In fine arts, Mr. Young had 4 students entered in the vase competition. All 4 of those scored a 4, which puts them eligible for advancement to state. So we're waiting to find out how many of those move on to the state level of competition, is my understanding. So I hope I don't completely butcher that, but congratulations to all of the students and Mr. Young. We're very excited for them, and I think more exciting than that is that Mr. Young is very excited about it. So we hope to see further advancing competitors in that group. So that's.
And there's a lot of kids that are now seeing how much that it's intriguing them as well. So it's really becoming something that even kids are getting excited about, and that's what we wanted. That's something that we really wanted to push, and so that was.
Yes, I have seen, Ms. Cole sent me a picture of one of our high school young ladies' paintings that she painted, and I'm excited to see the others because this one we'll have to post a picture on Facebook. It's Monty Cruz Fortuna, and she has done an outstanding job. I was really impressed that this came from one of our high school classrooms. So exciting for those kids.
They will be here in April to bring you the paintings and everything else, so you guys will see them in April.
Yes, very good. Okay, as far as career and technology goes, we have several students. Well, we have a lot of students participating in major stock shows. We have had several make the sale at major stock shows. I'd hate to name those because I'd hate to leave somebody out, but we've had several get branded this week, and that's a big thing at Houston, especially this week. And so lots of our kids doing well in that arena, and we are very excited for them. Mr. St. John also has several teams out competing right now. Well, in this season, I guess you would say, for spring judging contests. I know we have land judging teams, dairy foods judging, livestock. That sounds like we went to.
Do we have a wool judging one?
I can't remember wool judging. We have had kids compete at Anson and Jacksboro both. I know we have several school contests coming up in another week or two. So kids doing well in that area.
Land judging at Jacksboro won it, and that was 1A through 6A. And so they were the talk of it. And so that was exciting. And he came bebopping in, and he was just like he was on cloud nine. And I mean, rightfully so. But yeah, he said that they didn't even stay for the results because, of course, they were trying to get back. And so he was like, guys, y'all did good. We know you did. We'll hear what the results are. And they were on their way back, and somebody called him and goes, y'all won it. And he had to pull over, and he said, you're joking. And yeah, they did. They nailed it.
So they show places that like get rain and places that don't. So they can figure.
I'm telling you, I don't know what it is, but I'm telling you, it is. I mean, he did a fantastic job. So yeah.
So where do they advance to?
I don't know how that really works.
That's like an invitational, is my understanding.
Yes.
So they're getting ready. They'll go to area at Tech here in a few weeks, and then would advance from Tech if they do well there. So that's my limited communication from my child. That's my understanding. So anyway, lots of kids competing and excited about that, and missing some school. That's probably the worst part, but the kids are excited about that too. So anyway, Ms. Loomis and I worked on really hard today, or we hit really hard today. We've been talking about it for a long time. We are working on our dual credit offerings, selected classes, and planning for our future CCAP program, what we're going to be offering to our kiddos next year, looking at how to schedule for the best options to meet their degree plans. Of course, as degree programs change at colleges and things, and our kids' interest in, kind of directions present issues, we try to adapt and evolve the program to best meet their needs as they go. So that's kind of where we are right now. I started today, I got the 6th and 7th graders for this year set up to make their selections for fine arts classes next year. So that has gone out and been turned in. So that's just kind of one of the first pieces. We'll have the high school course options going out to them this week also. Of course, those are a major factor in where we build the schedule from here. So kind of gauging some interest in different classes and programs, and to see how many sections we need of this, and do we even need to offer this? Is this class going to make? Is this one not? So a lot of things going into that. We are at the point in the year that we need to be, that I am working on kind of laying the foundation to build next year's schedule. So I know Mr. Carter mentioned earlier, we are looking at high school going back to the block schedule. I think teachers will be thrilled with that. I know it has been missed as far as some of our CTE, and our core teachers like it too. And have
Did you say just the high school?
Just the high school. The first year high school did block, that Mr. Carter set it up over here, and I know the high school teachers didn't, and it was a rough transition. The junior high did it too, and it was a mess over there. And it just because when you have sixth graders going, do I have math today or do I have this? We didn't feel like they were quite mature enough to handle the inconsistency of the schedule for them. I think the high school really flourished.
Well, I know I had heard from some teachers after we have swapped this last time, they really liked the block schedule, once they got used to it. So
If you asked them when I started that process if they would have ever liked it, I can assure you that was not the answer they gave. But by gosh, when they got into it, they really liked it.
I heard good things about it.
Can you also talk about the schedule, about not necessarily the specifics, but that we are looking at the 3 through 5?
Okay, so what we try to do is listen all year, and I know teachers don't always feel like they get to have that input, but the schedule is one of the things that is a major part of my job, and I'm listening all year, and I'm taking notes and thinking, okay, how can we fix this? I know one of the biggest things that we've heard this year is that 3 through 5 core is not long enough, and we'd like to reduce the number of transitions for those kids. So both through parent and teacher input, I am looking at how to adjust those teachers' loads a little bit. My goal is to have at least 3rd and 4th, 5th grade looks like it will stay on more of a junior high schedule, but that's a good transition piece for them too. 3rd and 4th, we're looking at going to more of a 2-hour model with one teacher, where they would do essentially like an 80-minute ELA rather than 55, and then a 40-minute social studies, and then an 80-minute math, 40-minute science. So they can really beef up that core time in math and reading especially, but cut out that let me carry all my stuff and let me not lose my things one more time and leave all my things in the other classroom. So we're hoping to get to a little bit more of what looks like a co-teaching model for 3rd and 4th, rather than essentially they move on a junior high schedule, and it's a lot for them. And I know our teacher and I myself, we had gone to a model of more of a 75-minute, and Mr. Cook brought that to a screaming halt. I don't mean to place blame, but we were pushing for more time with those content teachers, core teachers, and he felt like that was too long, and so that was an unpopular opinion with a lot of us, and so now we're at the opportunity that we're going to shift back that direction. So to get them the maximum amount of time, we're going to have to shift our teacher loads a little bit. But the teachers know that, and they also know that with a little bit of change that will come every year as a standard comes increased time with our kids, hopefully improved performance from our kids, especially in those primary math and reading.
Third and fourth, they were struggling.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. No, yes, sir.
And that's kind of from what I heard from some of the teachers that, like I said, they kind of want a little more time with the kids.
Oh, for sure.
And that would help them. And
Well, and that's one thing I have talked about now. For the most part, over the 5 years that I've been here, we've had 4 teachers in that area, but we have 6 sections of kids. So where we struggle with that is we are covering kids through labs and with aids and in music and art and things like that, very creatively scheduling them so we don't have 6 sections of kids we can't ever have 6 sections of kids in core content. And they spend too much of their time, in my opinion, not in that core content. So one area of need, I feel like, is to get another teacher in there if we could. So they are closer to a co-teaching model, like I said, rather than being passed around the way they are. So anyway, we have gotten closer to that with taking Ms. Heron's position and putting Jenna in there full time. So we are closer. We're not quite where I'd like to see them yet. We are still at 55-minute core sections. And so we've got to shift that because I just don't feel like that's good enough for them. We're wanting to do better for them. So anyway, that's a big piece. And from the conversations I've had with those teachers, I think they're all going to be on board and looking forward to that improvement for them and the kids. And as far as when we look at the overall schedule, there's a lot of moving parts to that, especially with some pieces in the air as far as new hire positions. So that we can kind of we put a lot of pencil down and use a big pink eraser. We work on that all year long. So that will shift. Even most years, once we get in service. But we have a good plan in place, usually in June. Hopefully we'll have our hiring done by then and we'll be in good shape there. As far as student activities, we are working on getting prom planned. We have some we have fourth grade going to Frontier, Texas this Friday. We have a junior high field trip scheduled for the end of the year. As the outlook gets a little better, COVID situation, and with our COVID situation, we are hoping to get our normal activities in. I know we do have things like the John Boy track meet is on schedule through Tri-County, things like that, that we are hoping to finish the year as close to normal as possible for our kiddos. So, as far as daycare goes, I have been working with Nichelle on next year's enrollment. We feel like we have for sure 11 kids. We have been sitting at 10 all year long. So we are for sure at 11 as of what we know today. Potentially 13. We can't hold 13 right now. And that is our staff kids. And with, the ones who've been sitting there. I have had a lot of requests for next year. With the Renovations daycare closed down, I've had a handful at least of parents contact me asking about positions. And I'm not asking for anything. I just want you to know that's out there. So. And then as far as, as far as students, accountability discipline wise, we've been in pretty good shape there. Eventually this spring or summer, I'd like to bring some questions from dress code to you. We have some continuing issues, some that we fight constantly and some that we'd like to see changed or at least brought to you for review. My theory is always, I don't really care what the rule is, but I'd really like us to follow it. So that the things that we feel like could be addressed, and again, it doesn't matter to me if there's a change or not. I know y'all hear some of that. Hair code for boys is an issue that comes up all the time. We have some that just pretty much flat out refuse to do anything about it. One of the issues we have a lot over here is the nose piercings. What we do with them, I don't care. I feel like we could slow down that fight a little bit if we allowed the spacers that, those are things that we need to talk about at some point. So holes in pants and leggings are things that we fight constantly. I don't really see those going away, but I don't see us changing that rule. But anyway, those are some of the current issues on campus. As far as my next piece, I wanted to talk to you about the playground a little bit. This is not on the agenda as for an action item, so I just wanted to kind of give you some ideas of what was coming up. I've been working primarily with 2 different companies. I sent out an email to the principals in the area, in the region, and asked for their recommendations on good companies to work with. I got flooded with 2 main companies, and then a few smaller groups. So I've been working with 2 because I really wanted to kind of have 2 different viewpoints. One of them, and this is with Playgrounds, et cetera, out of Midland. One of them I asked for specifically, actually, you mentioned the rocks, for one of the poured in place type foundations. What that looks like is like a solid rubber foundation, kind of similar to a track, but a smoother surface. That's a substantial cost to be able to do that. I know some schools have things like that. They have turf, different situations like that. And by substantial, I mean half of your playground cost. So I had an initial quote from them with a pretty basic, and I have not been asking for the moon here. I feel like I'm looking for a replacement, a current updated version of what ours probably looked like 30 years ago. So primarily I've been asking for a large play center, a climbing structure with active play. And by active play, I mean monkey bars, twist bars, things to, I don't want it to be sitting and swinging. I feel like we all want more active, more core building. I just think I know I am very much a proponent of recess and play, because when we increased recess here, once I came, our discipline some of our discipline referrals went down. So the more breaks, and it doesn't have to be, we don't have hour-long recesses. We have 15 to 20-minute recesses and back, but we try to have 2 to 3 of those, to get you kind of reset. So anyway, active play with true physical body movement rather than sit in the shade and talk to each other or, that kind of thing is what we're looking for. So the first quote that I got back with the Ford in place was $194,000, and that hurt my feelings. I know I won't be writing the check, but I felt like we weren't getting what I wanted to see for that because it was a pretty simple structure, a Ford in place, and then I asked them to move over the pieces of our playground equipment that we want to see continue to use because we have some good pieces out there. So my comment was, I feel like we should have the Six Flags Over Texas out there for $194,000. So that just, I don't know. That hurt my feelings a little bit. They have adjusted that. One of the things that contributed to that cost is they had us putting a double layer of concrete under the Ford in place because of the fact that that old building is buried up there. So she came back out and looked and feels like we probably wouldn't need that, but if they could get their commission on that, why not push for it? So she has come back to me with 2 different playground structures with quotes at $141,000 and $123,000. So my request, once I kind of figured out what was reasonable, was, and this was just kind of a number I threw out there, I'm not sure if we need to, we could definitely adjust if we need to. My request was 120 to 150. I didn't feel like we should be asking for over that. So the other company has, we're kind of going a different direction, away from the Ford in place because it is so expensive, but they are quoting the majority. This is PTI Construction out of, I don't know where that is, but that's the one that I got the most recommendations for. Their recommendation was to do the wood mulch, which, you have to fill every few years, but he said most of their playgrounds go with that type structure. Now with that, of course, in the same ballpark, we get a much more substantial structure, and he is working on sending me a couple of different things. There are some limitations, I feel like, in the current placement of the playground out there because we have to stay out of the construction zone. So we are looking at a 60-foot by 60-foot square to put everything in. The one thing in the long range that we'll need to keep in mind is that does not fit swings in it because swings have to be a much longer run. So once construction is finished, I hope that we'll be able to bring swings back in because the swings are always popular, but they don't fit in a 60 by 60. So because you have to have such a substantial use zone, all safety terms.
We probably could use it, but the nurses' visits will probably, increase substantially from, hitting walls.
So I guess I guess the direction I'm looking for, and I think we're going to put this on the April board meeting to review some plans and approve one, hopefully, if we get to that point. That's the timeline we would have to be on to have a new playground in place by August start because ours will be coming up out there. So anyway, I guess some direction or feedback from you guys would be helpful as to, do we want the fancy port in place with limited structure, or do we want the wood mulch with a lot more play option? And again, we don't have to make that decision today, but just your thoughts would be helpful. The other issue is, do we want a very traditional platform, slides, monkey bars, or do we want one of the rep I'm working with this PTI, some of the equipment in some of the newer models has some of the, it's not a full course, obviously, have some of the Ninja Warrior type looks to them. And so, when you're
more of the active where you
and
can actually have competitions and not competitions, but I think you actually have different things that are not just your traditional, monkey bars and everything else like that, which, allows for you to use many different ways.
One question on those is obviously it's going to have a smaller lifespan. It's like foam type, what kind of lifespan or warranty is on that stuff?
That's a good question. They have included that in their quotes. I will have to, now, and the thing to make note of is that different pieces, different materials have different warranties on them. So there's not any foam the majority of it is, it looks like in the pictures it's as rope, but it's not rope, it's actually wrapped cable. So the wrapped cable,
You meaning for the pad?
Well, just in
Lifespan.
general, you know, I'm just picturing it in my mind.
The Ninja Warrior stuff?
Yeah,
Oh,
you know, but
well, I was wondering about the pad and its lifespan, and then if you have something that's, mulched that you just have to fill in.
Would we be able to temporarily move our playset now over there until construction is finished, and then we can go with a bigger area instead of trying to add on to it? Instead of trying to purchase something new to get on the schedule of the construction, is just use our maintenance guys, move our active system over there just to get us through, and then come back once construction is finished and put in an actual full-scale playset for the students.
I think the one thing that we're going to run into there is that the surface that we're using and everything else, by the time that we put in a temporary structure, it's almost, you're probably going to end up costing more than just going with the original. And the deal is, and that's one of the things we wanted to do, was we didn't want to skimp on, if we couldn't do a playground structure that would fit our kids and the number of kids that we had, we didn't want to bring one to you. And but this will fit the number of kids that we have out there. Plus that allows us the opportunity that once we do get all that out, that we can bring in some of those other ones and actually make the structure, utilize the whole area versus just the new, parts. That's what we were trying to come up with is ways that we could go and have a structure in place that we wouldn't have to move out and move in and trying to find the time to have them pull it out and then put back in, that you have time and then, more money. So that was the only thing that we concerned on that.
Did you get a quote for the turfing?
they didn't include a quote for turf. They recommended if you were going with a solid top foundation, they put in place that has the longest lifespan, is my understanding, that the turf will peel and ravel, and then you have to refill. Does that sound right? Okay.
It's almost the exact same as what you have, or for the regular turf, you have the black,
those beads.
you have the black that you have to go back in, and so that's one of the reasons why that they
Maintenance it so often, what they tell at the turf room, they come back once a year and vacuum it and whatever, yeah.
Yeah. It's a little different.
Have y'all ever looked at bringing in topsoil to grass seed that area out there
Which one?
between the two schools?
Just
Kind of where they play, it's
Add dirt to the.
just like a little layer, just gets the grass.
The school graveyard?
Yes.
Is that what you're?
In the rock yard.
Yeah. Rock yard.
My kid is part of that. Getting hit.
No, and but those are definitely things that we need to start looking at as to what are we going to do for some
I
of
really
that.
like the way those pictures looked with the.
I'm telling you, it was fantastic. I'm like, we're sold. Do it.
So make sure that stays on there. Now, in some of your smaller areas, they said, I don't know how many of y'all have been in the gym in Dayton recently, but they have turf in front of the gym. It looks gorgeous. It's obviously not real, but it looks nice all the time. One factor I think that would be an issue is if you planted grass in that whole area. I'm not sure how much it would last, because if you saw the traffic with the wall balls out there and the baseball season and, with kickballing and all that out there, I think they would beat it down pretty hard. But I definitely feel like there's some areas that we could attempt to get some grass in.
Well, 15-minute increments, they ain't gonna tear up too much.
Yeah.
Put a lot of traffic on here. See how many stops in for wall balls we have every day. It's about 30.
All I hear is throwing rocks, that's all I hear.
Better not more balls, I guess.
Yeah, I need to stack up like that. My kid won't get dying
And
off
then
that.
back to the roof again.
There you go.
Yeah,
But anyway, if y'all would just be thinking about that, and any thoughts or input you have, I would love to hear it. So, thank you.
We'll bring options and everything else. We'll have more of a fine-tuned presentation for you guys in April that we can look at and kind of decide what you want to do, and then provide feedback to me, email me with concerns. We'll try to address those so that we can bring you back something that we can look at that, can impact our younger kids, during this time as well. So it's kind of one of those things we need to look at.
That all our campus.
Yes.
Mrs. Williams, thank you. Let's skip on down to business and finance. Do we have Kendra on?
No, I'll taking over for her tonight. So yes, no, exactly. I'm telling you, every once in a while, I told her she owes me. And so let's look at the very first attachment, which would be the revenue and expenditures report. And on this report, what you will see is just a little bit of odd numbers. We are actually 113% on our revenues. And so what you have to remember when we budget is we have formulas on what we're expecting from the state, what we are expecting from the federal government, what we're expecting from local property taxes. And so we have exceeded that, our expectations. Some of that is from COVID funds. Some of that is from additional funds from the state and the federal government. So that's always good that you can have over and certainly not under. So that's fantastic. In page 2, looking at the expenditures, we have realized 52.22% of our expenditures. And that's pretty much right in line with what we had. And if you happen to look at the percentages above that in all the different funds, you'll see that some of them are 39%, other ones are 95%. Some of the ones that are 95%, those are funds that are for a specific purchase. And so they're purchased all at one time. So that 95% may be in April and you will not see any change for the rest of the year. It's not something that's going to be continuous throughout the time. So that is going to be the first report. Is there any questions on that report? Okay. The second report, we're just going to look at the comparison to the budget. This is going to actually go in and look at the functions of each of these. I am not good with my fingers here. Okay. So we're looking at instruction. You're at 51.77%, which is right where in line. Anything that you're looking at around the 50% range is doing well. You will notice that in transportation and we're at 85.59. A lot of that is just, from maintenance costs to, capital outlays. That's what the bill, that's what the additional bus, those types of things. So it's not necessarily that we're over. It's just currently per budget. That is it. So we'll have some budget amendments at the end of the year that we'll have to go in to look at. Looking at all the rest of them, you're sitting at pretty much right in line where you need to be for the majority of the year. Does anybody have any questions on that report? Okay. Third report is going to be cash on hand. Now this cash on hand is a little bit, I wouldn't say devious, but it's a little misleading. In our general fund, we have $6.7 million. That is including cash currently from the state of Texas and also our fund balance. Okay, so it's all together in one, and so it's technically in the general fund. So that's not that we have $6.7 million in fund balance. That means that is what we have in the bank account. Okay. And so that's where we're sitting right now. And then what you'll notice, this report is going to look very, very different in the months to come. You're going to see some different ones from certificates of deposit, preferred account, and then non-expendable trust funds. And then after that, you're going to see one for the education fund, and you're going to see some for the school bond. So you'll see some additional funds that will have new balances in there from this point forward. So just kind of know that ahead of time. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay. Then that is all for that report. And then I can go to the monthly bills when we get to those. See, I did okay.
We'll go on into the superintendent's report.
Yes.
Now.
Okay, so for the superintendent's report, let me share my screen up here. All right. So for March, we are looking at for our revenue expenditures for the Fisher County Appraisal District. We brought in M&O tax collections of $573,184.21. And we collected on our delinquent to $1,162.12. For the month, we brought in $575, $971.78. And then for the year, we're sitting at $1.4 million currently on property taxes. Looking at it from a historical perspective across the past 4 years, I guess the past 3 years, we brought in $573,184.21. That's up from the years preceding. But you'll kind of know that, look in January, that we dropped a little bit on our collections, but we gained back this month. So we're right in line where we should be. And we should be expecting 1.471170 for the entire year. Again, we will not see any more money from the state. We're in Class 2 schedule, so our next foundation school payment will be in April, and that will be 7.5% of our entitlement. Currently, for our 6 weeks FTE, we're at 291.533 for cycle 5, and for the overall year, we're at 291.101, and we built our budget on 272, so we're really looking good. That's where we want to be. And looking at it from an enrollment and attendance perception, I guess, or the view of it, is we are sitting at 306 students, and that was as of Friday. No, that was as of Sunday. But now we're fluctuating. We've got some new kids coming in, so that's not reflected in this. And we're at 291, 350, and then our budget was set on 272. So as long as our green is above our blue, we're good to go. And our current attendance rate is 97.32. Once again, as long as our green is more than our blue, we're doing good. External operations. This report I'm really working on to kind of be more reflective of kind of where we are in a lot of our external operations. And so what you'll notice here is that we've got the rentals and the rental income in orange, weight room memberships in blue, cup house dues in green. And then the line is our expenditures. This does not include personnel. I'm still trying to come up with a way to really indicate exactly where we are on that, and that's taking a little bit of time. But overall, you'll notice that we jumped in January and for some of our memberships and our dues for the rentals and clubhouse. And so we're really starting to fluctuate back down to the November and September ranges. So that's right where we want to be. And we did have a couple more expenditures and stuff in February for our external operations. The Education Foundation, we're currently sitting at $22,325. We did gain a little bit more, and so I'll have to bring that to you guys at the next one. But all of the donations currently that we've received is coming from the Chick Carter Memorial. And that's to go towards the equipment for the purchase of the new ag shop. And so that's going to be in honor of the brothers. Also, we are looking at, there are some people that are looking at donating some products and stuff for the baseball field, for lights and stuff like that. And so they'll be coming through the Education Foundation. And so we'll have some more, it'll be gifts. It's not technically donations, it'll be funds, but they'll still be able to utilize tax credits by doing that. So we're working on that right now. If there's anybody out there that wants to set up an account or make a donation, on your screen is the Education Foundation's address. That's all I have on that. Anybody else have any questions on that? Okay, let me get back over to my other screen. I'm not good with pointer finger. I like mice. And so we're going to go down and look at the AY 2022 plan. This is the plan that I'm currently working with, looking at next year and really starting to plan and listen for our 2022 plan. I've been doing a lot of listening sessions. I've done online listening sessions, in-person listening sessions, individual listening sessions. I've gotten responses through email, through our comment forums, online, through text messages, through actually walking through stores in Abilene and several other places. I've had some meetings in my office with different people, and so it's been a really good experience trying to hear exactly, what can we improve on, what's working, what's not working, those types of things. And so it's been excellent for us. And I just kind of want to go through with you guys real quickly, the process that I'm looking at. And one of the process is when I'm listening to people is I'm looking at what is their current experience? What is it? What is it that they're bringing to the table? What are they seeing, hearing, doing, thinking, feeling? And then what would be their ideal? What would be a perfect situation? What are they looking for? And then what are the barriers to achieving that goal? You know, what is it that is it something that we can do? Is it something that's legislative? You know, like for example, there was a lot of people that were not happy that we didn't have more students in the stands at the basketball games cheering our teams on. Believe me, I would love more there. One of the barriers was COVID, and so there are barriers that we can change. There's some barriers that we can't change, and so that listening to those and trying to think about the things we can do and the things that we can't change, and the things we can change, what can we do, and then what must we put in place to break down some of those barriers, and then in the end, what is the benefit? Is the work to change that going to make a positive benefit, or is it not going to be a positive benefit? And, can we do something different? So really taking it from every situation, every event that they're bringing, I just want you guys to understand, and I wanted them to understand too, that it's all about making sure that we listen and we do what we can, but understand our limitations as well. And so that's kind of where we were on that. The district priorities, just so that we're all in the same, is maintain a safe learning environment. This is not in any particular order, but these are what everything that we do in this district from this point forward that we're working on. Create an educational environment which focuses on future-focused culture, that we develop and maintain cohesive, challenging academic programs that focus on course quality and diverse learning opportunities, that we cultivate the development of well-rounded students by fostering participation in extracurricular activities that promote respect, confidence, and compassion, that we increase our post-secondary opportunities for students by increasing and strengthening our post-secondary partnerships and connections, strengthening our home-to-school connection through development of school, student, family, community, school expectations, and attract, develop, and maintain high-quality school staff to ensure all students receive a high-quality educational experience. Those are the priorities. And that's everything that we do ties to one of those things. And if it doesn't tie to one of those, we don't need to be doing it. And that's really what we want to focus on, is we really want to make sure that we're really streamlining, we're being strategic about the resources that we use, where we're going, what programs we're offering, those types of things. And that's where we're wanting to go with that. And so our approach that we're really looking at, and this is something that I wanted to take from, really gauging from all the listening that I've done so far, and I'm still listening. It's not like I'm closing my ear now, and I did say ear. Unless I have my hearing aid on, then it's ears. But just so that everybody understands, it's not that this is a stop-start. This is an always listening thing. And so we're going to continue to comment forums. I encourage people to turn those in. Yes, you can talk about my mama, you can talk about my dog, you can talk about whatever you want to, and I'll listen to what you have to say. But if I can change some things, we will. But other things, just understand that there's some things that we can't change. And so that's kind of where we are on that. And so, sorry, I'm not sure what happened. So our model and our components that we're looking at, and these are the things that by taking everything that everything that I listen to, it really fits into this acronym ACTIVE: accountability, communication, transparency, involvement, value-driven, and excellence. Everything that we are doing is going to be addressing one of those things. So not only do we have the priorities of the district, but now we're really going to focus on these are the things that we really need to take into light and really address. And from the accountability standpoint, making sure that we look at finances, the operations, and the programs, making sure our personnel, that we have high expectations, we have goals, and that we support our personnel, and that we help them improve. It's not that we just leave them on their own, but we provide the resources to help them improve themselves. Academics, that we offer assessments that are going to give us what we need. And then, our offerings, making sure that it's an offering that we actually are going to use. It's not just something that sounds great, but it is great. That's what we're looking at. From the community, how do we get more support in our community? What can we bring to the table? What can we do? And one thing that really shocked the heck out of me, and this is something that I was really shocked with is that there was an overwhelming majority of conversations I had is that, they wish that there was a way that we could have standards for parents. That, in communication, and, that, how they act around, at games and other places, and that they follow protocols and those types of things. It was interesting. I I was not expecting that. And that was coming from some of those stakeholders. So I thought that was interesting. And so looking at that from that perspective, and then students, of course, attendance, behavior, and standards. And so those are certainly things that we're still working on. Communication, this is a big one. And I will be the first to admit to you guys that we do not communicate effectively. I get it. I acknowledge that. And COVID has caused problems, but it's not just a COVID-related issue. And I think we always can strive to be better in communicating with stakeholders. I can do a better job communicating with you guys. I can do a better job communicating to the parents, teachers, coaches, and everyone else can do a better job at communicating our vision. And so that's one of the things we're going to focus on is clear, consistent messaging across all methods and platforms. We're going to update our stakeholders in a timely fashion and provide different methods for communicating with stakeholders. And so that's one of the big things that I want to make sure that we are doing and we're focusing on. Transparency, that we're giving not only just news and events, but also results. I think we sometimes send out, hey, we got a basketball game or this like that, but we don't ever report on how did they do. Or, if we have awards and stuff like that, that we don't do a very good job of self-promoting, and so that's something that we certainly want to look at. And assist stakeholders in understanding school regulations and protocols. Sometimes there's things like the COVID, it wasn't that we didn't want more kids in the gym, it was we couldn't. And so it was either give parents 2 tickets to get into the game, so we had more kids that could come to the game, or vice versa. And that's something that we're continuing to work on, and organize and make sure that we have meetings prior to activity season so that we can head off things and make sure that we all understand what the expectations are across the board. Promote more transparency on the district's website, and I'm working on that as well. This is the most exciting one for me, and I'll be honest with you. This is one that I was really happy to be a part of, is the involvement piece, and that's coordinating with our local programs, and that's from our youth leagues all the way to our booster clubs to our community organizations. And I've really had some great conversations with our youth leagues, and one of the commitments that I want to make sure that the citizens of Roby, the stakeholders of Roby, you guys as the board understand, as well as just our kids in general, is that we've got to start our foundations much earlier than waiting for them to get into our programs to do that. And so what an amazing opportunity it is that we have such a involved community support of our youth programs that can help us align that. And so we want to make sure that we're utilizing as much as we can to coordinate with them to get the skills based and get them the love and the passion of those activities at an early age, so that when they do get to the high school and to the junior high, that love is already there, that passion's there, that will drive into more success in the high school. And so it is certainly a coordinated effort, and that's something that I just want to make sure that we're very, very focused on. And the next is value driven. And these were words that after I got through talking with people, I wrote down the key words. I wrote down the ones that really hit home the most. And the ones that came up were integrity, caring, relationship, loyalty, excellence, open communication, perseverance, respect, responsibility, compassion, and fairness. And so I wanted everyone to understand is that I was listening, and I do, and I do turn my hearing aid up, when people talk sometimes. If my mom talks, I turn it down sometimes. But otherwise, I do want you to understand that these are things that we're really focusing on, and that these are things that moving forward that is going to propel us to the next step. And I'm very excited about where we're going. And excellence is, and I think at this point, this is the same conversation I had with everybody who walked in my office. In my divorce papers, I can show you the page that says my children attend Roby CISD. It's in there. It's in the actual document that they can go nowhere but Roby CISD. And there's a reason for that, is because I believe in this place. And so until you guys fire me, I'm here. This is not a stepping stone. This is not for me moving to the next, wonderful hither beyond, and then I'm padding my resume and all this other stuff. No, I'm not. This is about Roby, and this is about us making this the best place we can for our kids, for our students, for our community at large. And so this excellence piece, I think, is really something that I think is really going to drive home a lot of that. I want us to be a leader in rural education, in what can we do as a rural school district, that to be the leader, not the follower, but the leader. and develop every one of our activities that we offer to be highly competitive. That's our goal. Anything that we're going to put our name on, we want to do what we can to make it competitive. Okay, and that's something we got to put our money where our mouth is in some of that ways. Be the example of school pride. That's one thing that I hope that down the line that we can continue moving forward with is that whether we win or lose, that there is no one anywhere that can say that we didn't have school pride from the beginning of the game to the end of the game. That means the naysayers to the ones to the yaysayers, that everybody understands that they all have a role to play. If you come to a game, if you come to a competition, if you step foot in anywhere that you are, whether you like it or not, that you're there for the kids. And then at the end of the day, that's what we're here for. And so that's one thing. And then of course is that my commitment is that we are going to continue to offer as many and more benefits that we can to our employees, that not only to recruit, to bring them here, but also to retain them and make sure that we're having retirement parties for our people, as opposed to see you later, as you drive off in the sunset. And that's the key pieces that I think that, so I just wanted to kind of, to not be long-winded, which I understand. But I just wanted to give you at least an overview of what so far that we're looking at for the future. And the future is very bright, and I'm very excited about that. And so at that point in time, the rest of the information is very quick. Just so you guys know, there is a scary bill out there, and I've talked to you about that, House Bill 3445, and it is by Huberty, and he is one of the heavyweights in public education, and his bill would require all districts to have no more than 3 months of operating expenses in your fund balance. And that's fantastic if you don't have, an emergency that takes over that. And so one of the concerns we have is that if you only have 3 months of operating expenses, who are you becoming dependent upon? The state. You're depending upon them for everything at that point in time, because you're going to need that money down the line. So if you don't have those reserves there for an emergency situation, so we're really hoping. So if you talk to people and advocate, we really want them not to vote on House Bill 3445. And then also I put in my superintendent's report, fund balance information. If you guys want to look at that, that's just basic information on that. And then the last one is on the public health guidance. I know that there has been a lot of information out there about Governor Abbott's taking away the mask mandate and that. And so a lot of school districts are bringing resolutions stating that you are either going to continue with the mask mandate or you're not going to. In the TEA Commissioner's public health guidance, it states that that all school districts across the state of Texas shall continue to wear masks at all times, unless you are in GA 95, which was the governor's order that said that if you were in a county that had less than 30 cases and the judge, filed for the waiver, you were not in that. We currently are still underneath that. That's why I don't feel as though we need to do a resolution at this point, because again, as everything is, political winds shall change. And so it very easily could be in 2 weeks, we have a blow up in cases, and all of a sudden he comes back and says the mask mandate's in place again. My personal opinion is, and again, please, slap me down if you need me to, but I'm just going to follow what we currently have been doing. And we're going to continue moving forward with that unless you guys want me to in April bring you a resolution for otherwise. But why change something that we currently are under it's not doing any harm to us? From the medical's perspective, that's something for you to
honestly,
bring us.
What we've been doing, look at our attendance. Our attendance is still up and it's working. When the cases go up, you initiate it, but right now, it's working.
Yeah. And that's why I didn't bring it. I know other districts have done that. I just didn't feel like that we were at a point that we needed to do that. So that's why I didn't bring that to you guys. And that's it. I will be quiet at this point.
And you want me to follow up on all this? No, we could. Do you have anything on the minutes? I'm not finding a link to.
Oh, no. I don't have them on there. But we can do it for the next meeting.
Yeah, we'll just skip over a minute. Go to monthly tax report, appraisal district.
Okay, the monthly tax report, we've already gone over in my monthly report, unless you guys want me to go over that one. All of these are going to be in the consent agenda items. So do you just want me to go through everything, or do you want me to go one by one? How would you like for me
I'm
to?
just gonna do the
Okay.
A, B, and C
Okay.
separate, then we'll do the resolutions individually.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Okay. Okay, so for the,
February bills.
yes, February bills, let me pull those up. You have some uniform cost. We have some, a lot of ours is from the Region Center. That's always a bulk portion of our bills. We have golf entries. We have gas bills. I don't see anything really in there for track entries. Is there any in there that you would like for me to go over? Oh, one of the ones, just so you guys know, we kept getting this TASB bill, and it's for, these astronomical amount of money. And what it is anytime we have those TASB updates, those big, thick page, those packets that we have to approve, well, they send me a whole pack, of these papers. They're paying it. We're paying for them to print off to send to us on postage. And I'm like, okay, is this not something I can just print off myself and do? And they're like, well, yes. And I'm like, cancel it then. So we're done. So that's off there. So we're not having to pay for that expense anymore. That was the dumbest thing. And when I finally got that one, that was the very first one I'd ever had. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'll print it off myself. So that one's coming off. So that large bill will no longer be one that we're having to worry about. Does anybody have any questions left on the February bills? Okay, move on to the March bills. All right, on the March bills, let's see here. A lot of it is just basic. There is nothing in here that is of no, there's nothing that,
Nothing sticks out.
no, sir. No, sir, we don't.
Anybody else see anything or have any questions?
Okay.
Go ahead and somebody put up a motion to.
I'll motion to approve consent agenda items A, B, and C.
Where's the B and C?
A, we don't have the minutes.
Oh, sorry, B and C.
Do the next month, B and C.
I'll second.
Have a motion and second for B and C on our consent agenda. Any other questions? All in favor?
Yeah.
Any opposed? Motion passed. 6-0.
Yes.
Move down to the D, the resolution regarding the hourly employee pay during weather emergencies.
Okay, so the resolutions that you have on here, D, E, and F, are all resolutions that we have to have in order for us to pay employees during the time that we were out. And so this is something that I just think every district has to do this in order for us to technically pay any employees during the time that we had the outages during that wonderful, called Snowbit, by the way. And so that's what people are calling it, Snowbit now. So that's, but anyways, the first resolution in D is for our hourly employees. That would be everybody who is non-contractual. E is those that are contractual, and F is the waiver that I have to turn into the state that allows us to have those waiver days, so we don't use our hours from our bad weather days. These are actually days that are exempted from that. And in order for me to turn that in, I have to have a resolution by the board saying that we want to file for that waiver. And so that's all those D, E, and F are.
Anybody have any questions?
No, pretty simple. Do a motion to approve consent agenda items D, E, and F.
Second.
Have a motion and second for these waivers. Any other questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you.
We're on B now.
Moving on down to the regular agenda. Item B is a residential lease contract agreement for all CISD rental properties.
And all this is still this is just the actual changing of the contract itself, the wording, everything else along those lines, so that everything is kind of more in line, so that we've had several contracts that we've had from the time that we've started the apartments to the new ones. We've had some language changes. Not that there's anything, contractually changing in it. It's just more or less just making sure that we have a form that when we do want to make changes, we're referencing the right one, as opposed to having to go back to every form and decide where does that fit in there, that we have one standard form that we're going with. And so essentially this agreement changes nothing on pricing. It changes only the wording. Does that make sense? So in other words, this has nothing to do with any of the other conversations that have been made about, do we want to move the rent up or this like that? Essentially, this is just saying this is the agreement format that we want to go with. And so that's really what's bringing before you at this point in time. And then now, if you want to, at this point in time, it's also in this wording too, that if you want to change the pet deposits or any of that stuff, you certainly can at this point in time, but you certainly do not have to. You can just approve the agreement in of itself, and then we will go back in and put in the current rates and everything else as they currently are and leave those the same until such time as y'all want to readdress or not readdress that at a later date. So that's more or less what this item is about.
So y'all looked over the contract?
Will all the current tenants sign this new one?
Yes. So all we'll do is that once I get it done, what I'll do is I'll take their old one and make sure that I transfer all the information that needs to be changed over, and then they'll just come in and sign it. Nothing will change. This is not it's still a month to month. Nothing changes. It's just that they will all go under the same form at that point in time. And most of the ones are employees of the district, so I can get them to come in, and then the two that we don't have, then I can just have them come over and fill it out. It's not going to be an issue at all.
Anybody good with this contract or want changes or?
The current contract, so there's just like multiple versions for.
Yeah, there's just, there was never one singular form. And the issue is that we had one that was for non-employees and one that was for employees, where is really the one form really fits both of them anyway. So really moving to one, it will just make the process simpler so that everybody's on the same level playing field. And that's more or less what the reason for this would be. Plus, it also addresses the concerns that we had with like the noise. I think Stormy brought up about the noise, some of those things that may not have been directly spelled out in there that we just wanted to make sure that were in there. So all those things were addressed, but nothing with the actual cost, anything along those lines.
Anybody want to take this up or make changes or hold off till later?
I'll make a motion to approve it. With coming back later to change anything that we need to at a later date.
I have a motion and second on the residential lease contract. Anybody else said anything?
And this is just for the wording, not for any rate changes or anything. I just want to make sure that's for the record. Okay. All right.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passed 6-0.
Okay.
Like to move into resignations now?
Yes. I have 3 resignations to read. Dear Mr. Carter, I am writing this letter to inform you that I am resigning from my position at Roby CISD at the conclusion of the girls' basketball season. Thank you, Baylor Johnson. And so Baylor Johnson, Ramirez, however you want to say that, that's who that was for. Next is for Kathy Bridges. She is going to be retiring at the end of this year. Dear Mr. Carter, please accept this letter as my formal resignation from my teaching position in mathematics at Roby Consolidated ISD. My resignation will be effective as of May 31st, 2021. I appreciate the opportunities for growth and development you have provided during my years of tenure. Thank you for your support. Sincerely, Kathleen A. Bridges. And when I asked her because I knew she was retiring, I just said, if you can get me a letter that gives me a chance to go and open up your job, I kid you not, no more than 2 minutes. She had gone over, typed it out, brought it back and said, here you go. And she's like happy as all get out. Retirement is ready for her. So she's got that. So definitely. And then the last one is from Angel Pantoja. I would like to notify you that I will be resigning from my position as athletic director for Roby CISD upon my completion of my contractual obligations. Thank you very much for the opportunity you've given me to learn and grow in the education profession. I've genuinely enjoyed my time in the community and school. Decisions have to be made, and I feel that this is in the best interest for my professional career. I wish everyone at Roby CISD the best of luck in the future. Angel Pantoja. And so I recommend that we accept all 3 resignations.
Well, I'd like to thank all of them for their time spent, everything we've got. I'm sure the kids have enjoyed them.
I'll make a motion to approve the resignations.
Who seconded? Kevin? Have a motion and a second to approve the resignation. Anything else? All in favor? Any opposed? 6-0. Academic school calendar, 21-22.
Ms. McWilliams, do you want to kind of go over this item?
Sure. So I put together 2 options. I asked teachers if they had any input or requested any changes. I had just a couple of comments, and so basically I put out a version that was very similar to this year's. I think most staff members that I spoke to directly said they appreciated the 1 day off every month, or a minimum of 1 day every month. The start date was about where we liked it. The end date, I mean, I feel like the majority of our staff was pretty satisfied with the schedule overall. So basically what they landed on, and it was by like a 92% vote landed here. And then we had one last request. This calendar, the changes that were requested were to be out for Martin Luther King Day and President's Day were the ones that, because of, I guess those are federal holidays that a lot of companies are out for. I had someone request that maybe we change that President's Day in February and be out both Good Friday and the Monday following Easter. And when we had a staff meeting the Friday before, and everybody threw those hands up there too. So anyway, so this was we hope a popular calendar. Like I said, it's not far off of the calendar that we have been running off of for the last couple of years. Anyway.
What about our local stock show day?
Well, the local stock show was run on 2 Saturdays in a row this year, so we didn't put that back on. It's our understanding that they'll continue to run it that way in the future, as of what I've heard. I asked some of the board members that, and they feel like it will continue to be on Saturdays.
Good. And one thing to think about too, board, is that, we certainly understand we are far from the start of next year. So we are approving this calendar based upon the evidence and information we currently have at this point in time. If things change, in the event that something major changes, we'll have to do that. But you guys will vote to make any of those changes at that point in time. So just.
As long as y'all are happy with it, staff's happy with it.
Is this one, like, I know there's some people complaining about our spring break being different than everybody else due to, families wanting to get together.
Yes.
Is that how this calendar is following?
Is that?
This one is set up on the second week rather than, we had the early spring break this year. I know a lot of other schools had the second week. I set it on the second week.
So it should be possibly normalized.
We hope lined out more with what, I know there were some issues with some of our Houston kids, or kids showing at Houston Stock Show that are missing school this week and weren't showing last week. So now the one thing that I feel like has to be brought up as far as spring break is that we generally line it up with Cisco because of our dual credit students. So
right.
They have not set theirs yet.
Gotcha.
So if that's something I have also heard of schools that make it work when they're not on the same one because it makes more sense for everyone else.
Right.
So that's something we'll need to review once they get their set, if ours doesn't match theirs.
Yep. And, it's one of those things that there was half of the districts that were out last week.
Right.
And half of it, so it's not when, we've got 4 teams that are coming to our track meet on Thursday that were out of spring break last. So they're bringing their full team, and the other ones are bringing only partial teams because they're in, kind of the same. So it's very difficult to find one that works, for everybody.
Is everybody good with that?
Yep.
Anybody want to make a motion to approve it?
Motion to approve the academic school calendar 21, 22.
Motion bound second. The motion second on 21, 22 year school year calendar. Anything else? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Anybody
Go
else?
to F.
No substitutes. We'll go to consider approval of purchase of utility vehicles.
Okay, this one's very difficult because I don't have all the quotes that I really want in order to bring this to item, but the issue that we're running into is we currently have no utility vehicle in our district. All of them have died a valiant death. And so we are now down to, trying to transport trash and everything else, without any type of vehicle. And so that's extremely difficult to do. When you're running track meets and those types of things, you need, vehicles to get, blocks to other spots. So those types of things, we're definitely in desperate need of one. The one quote that I do have in your packet is from Quality Implement. That is for one that is basic to the current one that we currently have. But I tried to call Power Family Sports, and they're not open on Mondays. And so I did not realize that. So I don't have any other quotes to bring you. We did have one from Mahindra, which was kind of a larger bed vehicle, but I don't feel comfortable bringing that one. And so right now I only have one. So the options that we have in that situation is that either you can approve the Quality Implement one, which will be somewhere similar to the range of what most of the utility vehicles are going to be. Or you can say, that you provide, the superintendent to, come up with the best value, and it has to be under a certain amount of money. So those are the two options. Otherwise, the only other thing I can do is call a special board meeting or wait till the April meeting to bring back one to you. We're kind of at that point of, I didn't realize that we were going to have the last one die. And so we're kind of, we're gated
How many
forward.
of these we normally have at one time?
We've had two that have been operational. One has been kind of the one that the maintenance department used, and the other one was kind of one that we used, for athletics. That was kind of more of I guess it was more of the older one, really. And so it was kind of, we kind of retired it to only little things, and the other one we really, ran it through the, through the paces. So we typically have had two, but we kind of were running the last couple of months on one, and now we're down to none.
Feed the squirrels.
Do it.
I starved them squirrels too much.
Well, I mean, they may have gotten COVID.
Is this just a two-seater?
Yes.
Like the other one?
Yes, that is correct. It is the exact same. I mean, the same. And from my understanding is the one at Quality Implement, they do have it in stock. It's ready to go. So, I mean,
That's cheaper than I would expect.
And I will call Power Sports tomorrow and try to get some other quotes on some other ones. I don't have those to bring to
So
you.
this one would be mainly used by maintenance.
Yes, I mean, that's really what it's really, that's the major use of anything we do is with maintenance, and that's carrying, stuff back and forth during the summer times to taking out the trash from all the buildings and stuff at the end of the day, those types of things. It's not used for any other reasons than that.
The reason are we looking to potentially get two at some point or for athletics? I mean, I'm just asking.
Well, I mean, I really don't think that we need one per athletics. I mean, really, we use it for, every once in a while, like at football games, taking out all the, the stuff, to the fields and stuff like that. But otherwise, it's really not used for anything other than,
Just as needed.
yeah, I mean, it's really not anything that's just like, has to be just for athletics. We were just using the older one for that, just to use it, until it died, but knowing that at some point it was going to die, that we had one backup, and now they're dead. So I don't know what to do on this one. I don't know how to frame this for you guys. I apologize. This is just something that
Do you know what the lifespan is we got out of the last two?
I don't have that with me right now, but it's
It's been a
been,
long time.
I mean, I know one of them was.
15 years.
so yeah, I mean, that would, I don't know that. So, yeah, so it's not, I mean,
I know they lasted quite a long time. I mean, long time. Long as I can remember.
so
Some days some days older, some days good, some days not so good, but.
well, I really like to bring you comparable offers and those types of things. And this was just one that I was not able to do. Comparables at that point. I was hoping that they would be in, but I just could not believe that they were off on these. So that was on me. So,
Well, I think it's still supporting the local business, so I'll motion to approve the quality implementator. I'll see you around the bush, but.
I think it's a good price too.
Yeah.
Looks like it.
I was kind of surprised on that.
Yeah.
Kevin's made a motion and Stormy has seconded. Anybody else have any thoughts? All in favor? Any opposed? Do you send it over to Josie or?
I don't know what to do. I mean, I guess you can put plants in it. I mean, I guess you could make it a planter. I mean,
She put most of the miles
I
on
think we can put a V8 in, a little sport.
We can revive it.
It might be a good project for the.
Well, actually, that's one of the things that the small engine that was kind of one of the things we had tossed around and, use that as a kind of a, project.
I think it'd be a great idea, and then if you actually did get it back right.
Exactly. I know that's really what we're kind of thinking about. So it's really not getting rid of it per se.
Right.
Freight, or them old freight motor in there, you'd be all right.
But your maintenance is gonna thank us.
Well, as long as you
Oh, yeah.
brackets, and I think it'll work really loud.
And then the last one's just a resolution.
Resolution to
Yes, this is just the resolution for us to continue the process. So I just need a motion to move to approve the resolution to move forward on the renewal of the district's innovation plan, and then direct the superintendent to appoint on behalf of the board the necessary members to complete the committee.
Well, I'll make a motion to move to approve the resolution to move forward to the renewal of the district's innovation plan and direct the superintendent to appoint on behalf of the board the necessary members to complete the committee.
I'll second that.
Yeah, I'm reading it off here. I didn't memorize what he said.
And basically, that's just to ensure that you're not completely controlled by. Well, there's not really an option.
No, districts would be dumb not to do it. And it's just a process that you have to go through, and you have to have things open for 30 days. They want to make sure that it is not administrators or anybody doing this, that it is completely controlled by the board, and the board understands exactly the process that they're going through. And so I appreciate that. Yes, that's all it is.
Well, I have a motion and a second.
Do a second.
To go. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
We just have closed and that's it.
Take a break and we'll go into closed session. I'll read this off. Down the board. Where are we at?
Like saying all our phosphates were swollen, so we're all.
Yeah, sure, we're gonna take a break.
8:30.
Bad joke.
We'll go into closed session. Texas Government Code, Chapter 551-074, First Amendment.